Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Angry Asian Uncle podcast. I am your host, Reynold, and my co host.
Hello, everybody. It's Victor.
Hi. So today we have another special guest, Cam. Cam, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Kam Knight. I am a coach, international speaker, and author of a dozen books in the area of mental performance and physical and emotional performance as well. And for as far back as I can remember, I've been a fairly driven individual. Hard not to be living in a culture and society with so much personal development content and everyone telling you to do more, be your best self, and reach for the stars. As a result, I have always wanted to do more, have more, and be more in life. And although I've had my fair share of success, I always felt like the success was more difficult and stressful, or that I missed the mark in some way. And I always wondered why that was. Why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it? Now, at the time, there weren't any clear answers. The best answers I was coming across related to having motivation and discipline or having better beliefs. But I always felt like there was more to it. And over the last 15 to 20 years, that question was always on my mind. Every time I was stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Or why can't I just do this thing so I can get the result that I want? And the more books I was reading, coaching I was doing, and seminars I was attending, the more I was learning about the complexities of the human brain and body. And one of the themes that kept coming up was how our brain can hold us back. If what we're trying to do is not in line with our identity, it will hold us back. How if our beliefs aren't good or positive, it'll hold us back. And over the years, I think my brain was percolating on all this information that was coming in. And at a certain point in my life, I just had this epiphany or aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of our mind built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part resistance. And it's this brick wall that we hit anytime we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it.
Oh, wow. Is that a protection mechanism that's built into our brains?
In a way, it is. We can see it that way. So, what really helps to understand is that the part of the mind that creates wants and desires works separately and independent of the part that actually allows us to act on that desire. And this is a really crucial point to understand, so I'll say it one more time. The part of the brain that creates wants works separate from the part that allows us to act on the want. So we have one part of the brain that is essentially creating wants and desires, and its job was never to check to see if it was worth going after or pursuing. Its only job is to create wants. And in
Hmm.
many ways, it's very unrestrained. It's creating wants one after another at a pace faster than anyone can achieve. And then you have this other part of the mind that evaluates the want to see if we should go ahead and do it. And this part, if it doesn't give the green light, we can't act. So what's really
Oh,
important to understand is it's possible for both the brain to create a desire for something and at the same time keep us from going after it. So if any one of you or your listeners have that moment where you feel this tug of war, where you want to do this thing but you can't, well, now you understand why. It's not because you're lazy or don't have what it takes, but it's this dynamic that's playing out. And what's even more important to understand is anytime that desire, a decision, a course of action stands before you, it gets evaluated by this part of the brain using a whole host of criterias. And in my work, I found there's a good 2 to 3 dozen criterias, and I kind of alluded to a few of them, identity and beliefs. And so what really helps to understand is anytime you have a desire, it gets filtered through this. So it's like standing before a panel of judges or board of directors. Every decision that comes up must go through them. If even one of the members is against the idea, it will not pass. Now, there's one more thing that's really key to understand is that both parts can get in the way. The parts that create wants can get in the way, as well as the parts that allow us to act on the want. And so it doesn't really matter how much motivation a person has, how simple the solution is, or even how much benefit a person can derive. If a person doesn't understand this dynamic, it's usually the reason they're experiencing challenges.
Wow, that's so interesting how our brains are built that way. And
Yeah,
the dreamer part of our brain almost has like a license to dream uninhibitedly,
that's
according
ex
to what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. It's completely uninhibited, and
Mhm.
it can create wants for things that's not possible, that's not likely achievable for us,
Uh-huh.
or that's not even fulfilling.
Wow.
And,
Uh-huh.
and
It's-
what's even more challenging is that it can make us feel like it will be fulfilling. I'm sure we've all had ex moments where our brain released these really powerful sensations or desire for something and made it feel like, oh man, once we had that, our life would be great.
Hmm.
Like, and once we get it, it didn't change, or
Yeah.
it doesn't
or
feel great, right?
Yeah.
yeah, or it
Yeah.
felt great for a moment, but then it left. And this is one of the challenges of, in many ways, being humans, where we
Mm.
have this uninhibited wanting mechanism that's kind of pulling us in all sorts of directions, and it's convincing us we need this thing, and sometimes it's creating pain for not having it. And so now
Mm.
we have pain for not having it, and then when we get it, or put in all this work to get it, it doesn't actually create those positive feelings that it made us believe would happen if we got it.
Wow, it's so interesting. It's almost like
Yeah.
what Buddha was saying about one of the, core tenets of his teachings is just eliminate all desires. And,
Yes.
yeah, that would lead you to a path where you don't suffer.
Yeah. So you
If you
guys are
don't,
really getting where I'm coming from.
yes.
When I say both parts can get in the way, our wants can get in the way. And actually, when we look at a lot of the ancient scriptures, like what
Mm-hmm.
Buddha said, the 12 commandments, the seven deadly sins, they were really talking about the wanting mechanism,
Mm.
like how this mechanism can create all these wants. Like when you think about the seven deadly sins, greed, gluttony, um, a couple of the others. It's really talking about how our desire for more and more and
Mm.
more. Same
Mm.
thing with the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. It was really helping us try to contain this part of the brain that just wants and
Mm.
wants and wants.
Wow,
So
interesting.
yeah. So is that the key to hinder the want, to hinder the part of the brain, or sort of hold it back? Because if we let it run free, it's just a cycle, right? We just continue having this problem. We want too much and we can't handle it. Is it so?
That's one of the keys. So, as I mentioned, there's one part of
Yeah.
the brain that creates want and the other part that allows us to act on the want. So,
Hmm.
one part of the equation is working on the wants itself. The other
Hmm.
part is working on the resistance. And then there's a couple other parts to the equation. But going to the wants is really important because, as I mentioned, the part of the brain that creates wants, it's
Hmm.
creating endless wants. It doesn't
Right.
check to see if a want is enjoyable or achievable. It simply creates wants. Even while you're working on one want, the mechanism will create other wants to chase. So in many ways, a wanting mechanism is the reason people buy stuff they don't need, crave things that aren't fulfilling, and it's actually
Right.
also the reason why people cheat when they're already in a relationship. But more importantly, it's the reason behind why it's so difficult for people to do the work and stick with things. Because a mechanism is pulling us in all sorts of directions, it's difficult to move in any one. And I'm sure
Sure.
people have experienced moments where they want something and they're going after it, but then their brain is creating other wants that's pulling them away. And oftentimes we have these desires pulling us all these directions, but we're not moving in any one. And it has to do with this aspect of what's going on in our head.
Wow, it
Yeah.
sounds exhausting just listening to it, right?
It's so exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, your brain is just constantly
Yeah.
self-sabotaging you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
And
if
as a
it's
re
like,
Go ahead.
sorry to go, yeah, what if it's like the complete from the other spectrum, like the one, if we completely stop, so because sometimes I think about this, like um, with all this desire and whatnot, if we sort of cut off the desire, like if we train our brain to say, I'm content with everything, I don't want anything, and then it becomes to the other extreme where like, why do anything at all?
Mm.
I come like my mind wanders to say, if I do that, then I won't have any motivation. I guess my motivation wouldn't be there to say, go out and go work or go out or do something because I suddenly it's just pure example, right? Suddenly I
Yeah.
train my brain to say want nothing, and then basically I'll just sit on the couch and do nothing because it doesn't. It ends up to be like the other extreme. Like nothing really matters.
Yeah.
What's the thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an extremely good point that you're bringing up, and I'm glad you brought up. And I'll start by saying right now we kind of live in a culture where if, or we've been conditioned to think if one is not good, then the
Mm-hmm.
other has to be good. Or if we're not doing one, we have to put all our thought and effort on the other. And I think that the balance is the key. So, one challenge is we have an overactive wanting mechanism that's pulling us in all sorts of directions where it becomes difficult to do anything. And like you said, it's just exhausting. But the other extreme is not having any wants and then we're not doing anything. So, I think what's really helpful, and this gets talked a lot about in personal development, and it comes up in words like clarity, focus, purpose. And all they're trying to say with that is, hey, pick one want and cut out all the rest. Whatever other wants, desires that are coming up, don't think about, worry about, or consider them. Just focus on that one thing.
Mhm.
And if a person can focus on one want, then they can move mountains.
Mhm.
And that's why there's so much talk around how important purpose is. If you, if a person actually looks into purpose, it gets talked about by personal development people all the time. And there's a lot of studies around how purpose can be one of the key drivers to a person's success, and not just success, but massive success. And why is that? Because when we have purpose, we're focused on one thing and we're not being distracted by anything else. And when we just have that one desire and we put our energy and effort into that, we can actually start moving forward in that direction. So, yes, having no desires isn't better than having a bunch of desires, but finding a middle ground. And sometimes sticking to one thing isn't easy, especially in our times now where there's just so much to do and there's so many options and there's so many experiences to have. So what I actually like is what that famous investor Warren Buffett recommends. He has you do an exercise where he makes you list down all the wants that you want. And then after you list all the wants and desires you have, he has you number them from one to whatever. And then once you have ranked them from importance of your top want to, your least important, he
Mm-hmm.
tells you to pick the first five and cut out all the rest.
Mm.
And and don't focus on anything else until your first five is complete. And I
Mm.
think that wouldn't be a bad option for people. And I've done that and it's helped me a lot. So over the last 10 years since I heard about that process, I have picked different fives. So at one point, I had writing because I'm an author. I had photography because I was traveling and I wanted to learn how to take better pictures. I had travel And then I had a couple other items, I think like yoga and something else. And then I
Mm.
cut everything else out. And it was amazing how much I progressed in those five once I chose that as a priority and
Mm.
removed all other desires where I just didn't even think about them. And now it's
Wow.
evolved to speaking, and I am doing salsa and bachata dancing. I do rock climbing,
Wow.
but in order to add those, I had to remove some things. So I have removed photography and I have removed traveling. And
Mm.
now I just focus on that, and I'm getting a lot of fulfillment from there. So when we say, the one end of the extreme is bad, it doesn't mean we jump into the other end because that's what a
Right.
lot of times our brain says. Well, I don't want to live a life with no wants. No one's saying that. It's
Right.
Yeah, I think either
Yeah.
extreme isn't very healthy for the individual.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's important
exactly.
to find a balance, as
Yeah.
What,
Cam
what,
mentioned. Yeah.
what
Right.
of, well, back to the, where you mentioned about purpose. So everyone, everyone asks that famous question, what's the purpose of life, right? So
Yeah.
everyone tries to find the purpose. So I think for me, a lot of times the holdback, when you say the panelists, right, the board members of my
Yeah.
brain hold back is because we're getting too far. They're thinking ahead, right? Because they're saying, what if we do this and we fail? What if we do this and it's not fulfilling? Or what if to do this it's not our purpose? Or what's worse, the thing that we think is our purpose, we go do it, and we are we're just failures at it. Like say,
Yeah.
I want to be whatever it is, right? I want to be a good basketball player and join the NBA.
No, if it's my, yeah.
Yeah, will never happen, right? So
And this is one of the challenges of being human. I think one of the struggles of personal development right now is that they're making things seem like it's too easy. And it's focused a lot on motivation and inspiration, where they say, yes, you can do anything. You have the power, go live your purpose.
mhm,
But what they're not saying after that is there's a lot of complex things that does make it difficult to go after it. And one of the complexities shows up in our wants. And I talked about one challenge of our wants, which is an overactive want where the brain pulls us in all sorts of directions. Another challenge of wants actually is unaligned wants, where we're doing something, but it doesn't feel good when we're doing it, or we're not getting the positive feelings that we thought we would when we complete it. And that usually happens when the want is unaligned. But here's the thing, even if we can figure out narrow in on our desires to the core one purpose or, the top five, now we hit up against resistance. So just because we have our purpose or we know what it is we want to focus on doesn't mean now we can just do it. Now the brain looks at those desires and filters it through those criterias. And as I alluded to a couple of them, identity and beliefs, there's actually quite a lot. So it can hit up against our self-image, it can hit up against our authority issues, it can hit up against things like what's the word? Imposter syndrome. There's feelings of fraud. Can hit up against our inner child. Like I said, there's a good 2 dozen to 3 dozen things. And this is where being human becomes more challenging, especially when it comes to going after what we want. Because when our brain stops us from doing something, it doesn't tell us it's stopping us. It doesn't say, hey, Reynold or Victor, you know that thing that you want to do? Well, it goes against our authority issues, so I can't let you do it. That's not how it works. And so when we get stopped, we don't have a reason why we're being stopped. So we start to assume because we don't have what it takes, that we're not good enough, or we don't have motivation. When in reality, it's these criteria at play. And what makes this even more challenging is some of these things go deep. I mean, it took me decades in my journey to uncover some of my resistance. And sometimes it happened by chance meeting people who were masters of that one particular thing. And if a person is struggling with that resistance and they don't actually, go out and do the work to find that answer, it can be difficult. So I know people are always looking for cookie cutter solutions, and it's re likely the reason they're stuck because the cookie cutter solutions don't necessarily work, or the feel good doesn't necessarily hit upon the resistance. Now, I'm not saying that all is lost. All I'm saying is understand the complex nature of the human experience. And so when we do have a desire, it really helps to have the expectation that there are parts of myself that are actually going to hold me back. And they're going to create roadblocks and throw rocks in my way. And if I
Mm,
can be aware of that before I get started, when it comes up, it won't derail me. But
mm,
if I'm not aware of it and it comes up, it completely will derail me. And that's what usually
mm,
happens.
mm. Yeah, I subscribe to a lot of South Asian and Eastern philosophical thought growing
Yeah.
up in this part of the world, and a lot of what you said makes sense to me. And it's just terminology. Some of the stuff over here, people would say, "Oh, it's basically your life path, or your karma, or your dharma, or your homework." Basically,
Yeah.
that's why you came into this world, and you have certain strengths and weaknesses, and some of the obstacles put in your way are there to let you problem solve, so help you
Yeah.
grow. So it's not like, well, you're here and then there's nothing for you to do. It's like you chose certain conditions when you embody this physical presence, and you want to use your creative faculties to try and learn from those experiences. So yeah, a lot of what you said makes sense to me, and I feel that the way the human person is designed, it seems like there's this dichotomy, right, between these endless wants and our ability to actually achieve it. But I think it was intentionally designed that way. This is my theory, at least,
Yeah.
so that that's the challenge being human.
Yeah.
That's like that makes your life interesting, right? So Chinese saying, there's always this saying, "May you live in interesting times." So it's almost like a curse. So the word "interesting" there is just another way of saying that may you live in difficult times. It's just a nicer way to say it. But
Yeah.
I think the wisdom viewpoint of that saying is like, when you live in interesting times, there are all kinds of things that will come up where you have to employ your creative faculties to solve. And then once you go through that, you come out of it a wiser, better person.
Yeah.
So I feel that the way the human person is designed is precisely this push and pull between these two aspects of ourselves that create a higher self.
Yeah.
This is coming from a very South Asian, East Asian kind of
Yeah.
point of view, yeah, which I'm sure Cam knows all about.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to over 100 countries. So this concept that I'm talking about, internal resistance, isn't just something that just came in my head. I really did my work. So I've been to
Right.
most of the South Asian countries and a lot of the temples over there. And so, yes, I definitely agree with where you're coming from. And if I can add to what you said about dichotomy, it's all about this dichotomy. So what's really interesting is we have a part of the brain that is designed to create focus, and then we have a part of our brain that's designed to distract us. And people are saying, well, why would we want to be distracted? Well, distraction is helpful. So let's say you're working on the lawn, really intently focused, and your wife pulls up and loses control of her steering, and now you have this 2-ton steel thing coming at you. It's important that you get distracted.
Mm,
Or if you're walking down the street, intent in your thoughts, and you get distracted by $100 bill that's on the ground, it's important to be distracted. And so there's a dichotomy. Part of us is designed to be focused, and then another part to be distracted. We have one part of the brain that triggers emotions, and interestingly enough, we have another part of the brain that'll suppress it, our defense mechanism. And then we have one part of the brain that creates wants, and then we have another part of the brain that will keep us from going after that want. And and it is this dichotomy that both is interesting and challenging. And at the same time, it's where our struggle comes from.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
the more extreme each side is, so the more strong our distraction mechanism is, the more challenge it creates. The
yeah,
stronger the part of our brain that holds us back, the more struggle we experience. So, this is the human experience, and if we can understand it, it can help us weed through it better versus getting caught in the struggle. And I like another thing you had mentioned about, doing the work to to move past the things that we chose for this life. And oftentimes we'll see somebody, we all know somebody who has very little resistance, meaning this part of the brain doesn't hold them back that much. So when they have a desire, they can go out and do it. And they can achieve a lot of things fairly easily. But then for the rest of us, we struggle because we have less desires. And then when we go after them, we're met with resistance and it's a lot more difficult and challenging. And
mm,
so we can feel jealous or even feel like life's unfair because how come this person gets all these things and I can't? There is a silver lining in that because the fulfillment doesn't come from achieving wants or how fast you achieve it. Although when we were growing up, that's what we were conditioned to think. So when we were growing up, if we understood what the teacher was teaching us quicker, we were labeled as smart. If we were
mm.
able to pick up maybe sports quicker, we got accolades or we got attention. But the actual fulfillment doesn't come from achieving things quickly. Because when you look at those people who can do things very easily, they're not very fulfilled. They go from one want to the next want to the next. Meaning, if things did come easy, we would gain the pleasure for just a short time until
Right, right. Yeah,
our brain
yeah. It's
creates
so
a want,
interesting.
for something else. So for that person who does have more challenges and more struggle with things, the silver lining is when you can put in that effort and go through that pain or struggle and get to the end desire, your pleasure is going to be much bigger and it'll last much longer.
Mhm.
So the pleasure comes not from what you're achieving or what society thinks you should achieve. It comes from the work you put in to achieve it.
Yeah, it's such an interesting point. The closest analogy I can think of is like when I play video games, and these days you're allowed to set your own difficulty settings.
Yeah.
So you can tweak the gaming experience to what suits you. And then the funny thing that I found about a game is that if you set it up way too easily, you don't get that fulfillment. It's like, well,
Yes.
that wasn't much of an effort. There's no struggle there. Like I it was no challenge. And but
Yeah.
if you go the opposite extreme and it's a little too hard, it takes all the fun out of gaming, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to know where that sweet spot is,
Mm.
and oftentimes it's a matter of knowing when to employ the right tools,
Yeah.
to get the most out of the experience. And that process of having to face up against a challenge and mastering and overcoming it brings about this great sense of achievement that you feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even find myself not wanting to finish a game too quickly, as you mentioned, like because,
Yeah.
well, when it's done, I have to go look for something
E-
else, right? So like it's almost
Exactly.
like I feel sad if it ends too quickly. So almost like I don't want this pain to end too soon. All this sounds contradictory, but or it's like reading a good book. It's so good that you breeze your way past the entire thing, and in the last three chapters, you find yourself holding back because it's too good, right? You don't want it to end. So yeah, it's so interesting that human experience is like that. You need some kind of struggle to get that sense of fulfillment at the other
Mm.
side.
I am so
What about
glad you brought this up, Vic, because the video game analogy people can relate to. It's when the game is too easy or you're playing against an opponent who is a beginner, it's just not fun. You just get
Yeah.
bored.
Yeah.
And so if a person is doing something where they're struggling or they're looking at someone who can get things much easier and feeling like they're not good enough or feeling jealous, know the downside to that because that person is 100% going from one thing to the other. You don't just achieve something and then feel fulfilled for the rest of your life. You want the next thing. And the quicker you achieve it or the easier it is, the quicker you want that next thing. To the
Yeah.
point, like you said, well, I don't want this to end so quickly because then I'm just gonna need to play another
Yeah.
game or
Yeah,
more games.
exactly.
Yeah.
Also
So
reminds me of I think I mentioned this to Reynold before in one of our earlier podcasts that when I was looking up there was this documentary about how temples in Cambodia were designed and some of the artwork that you can see throughout the temple complex. And one of the more interesting ones is, I think, the main bridge leading into the temple complex. If you look at the bridge on both sides, there are serpents. One's going in one direction, and the other one's headed toward the other direction. And scholars explain that that's a representation of the constant push and pull of opposing forces here in our world. And it's through this constant push and pull that the soul is refined. So
yeah,
you need those opposing forces. Same thing that you need these opposing forces in your mind.
yeah.
It sounds um, it sounds counterproductive, right? But but
Yeah,
actually, it's that constant tension that sort of brings out the best. Or like if you akin it to maybe a diamond, it needs to be polished.
yeah,
It needs to have some forces acting on it to bring out the shine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I want to say two things. First is about um, go into fulfillment a little bit more. So there, one of the things that people are caught in right now is the shiny object syndrome. They try one thing and then they jump to another and another. And the reason is to a part of the brain, novelty is extremely pleasurable. When we're doing something new, it creates or releases these powerful feelings that is really attractive. So that's why we'll always try new things. But a lot of times, especially the people who jump from one thing to the other, they don't realize that there is a level of pleasure and joy that comes from depth, meaning sticking to something, grinding it through,
Mhm.
pushing through the pain and struggle and the blocks and resistance. And when we get there, or when we go deeper into one topic and learn it at a very higher level, there's a feeling or experience that a person gets that's not possible any other way. Like you can't do it any other way, but to stick with something for an extended period of time and learn it at a deep level. For example, this topic of internal resistance, I'm hoping people understand there's a lot of depth to it. And for me to go it this deep, there was this joy that I've gotten that I couldn't have gotten from jumping from one video game to another or one show to another and all of that. So that's really important. And then this push pull, I like that you keep bringing it up because what I help people understand, especially in my courses and program, is our entire experience is this push pull. Our entire experience. When we actually break down the human experience, it's this push pull of the wanting mechanism pushing us and inspiring us to act, and the resistance pulling us and holding us back. And it's this kind of dynamic. And I never
Mhm.
really connected to how like it's necessary for our growth, like the diamond example you used. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
we could look at it that way.
Mhm.
And it kind of comes down to even a lot of other ancient thinking, like the Hermetic principles.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've heard of them. I haven't gone too deep in them, but I know one of the principles is duality, meaning
Mhm.
where there's hot, there's cold.
Yeah.
And I think we can connect this push-pull to that as well.
Mhm. Yeah. As above,
What,
so below.
What's
what,
that?
As above, so below.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for the
Beautiful.
so we've been talking about like people, completing things easily or being successful, right? So you say that back to the video game analogy that you can beat the game and everything. What about for those people that can't beat any game? Like can't even get past level one. And then they're just like, they try different games and they just can't get past level one, for some reason. Again, another extreme example from the other side. And then they just keep failing and failing and failing. And then they end up just like, what's the point of life? Like, I can't do anything. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the other spectrum of it, right? So
Yeah.
how do
And
we deal with that? Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because it doesn't get talked about too much. And again, right now, a lot of personal development is you can do it if you believe in yourself and inspiration, but it doesn't tap into the reality of what's going on. And I think we are uncovering some of the challenging aspects of the reality. And one of the reality is for some people, no matter how much they do something, they don't succeed in it, or they're just wired in a way where it's just so difficult. I'll say a couple things about it. One, I used to be that person. So when I was younger, I had two left feet. I was uncoordinated. I didn't have any rhythm. And no matter what I was doing, I wasn't good at it. And what I realized is that the way the human brain and body work, it works on repetition, meaning the more we repeat something, the better we'll get at it. And oftentimes we think that we should get good at something in the first few tries, like two, three, four tries. But really, it takes 50, 70 to 100 repetitions to just understand something. And then it can take thousands of repetitions to start getting better. Meaning, we've all heard that phrase of, mastery takes 10,000 hours.
Hmm.
10,000 hours, that's like 100,000 repetitions of something.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people will assume because they did something even just 20 or 30 times that they're not cut out for it, when in reality, it takes considerably more repetitions to do it. And what I'll go as far as to say, because in my journey of understanding this concept, I didn't just like read books or studies. In fact, I feel like a lot of that stuff is written by people who haven't done much in life. I actually went out into the world and pushed myself. So I have done all kinds of things. I have learned, like I said, salsa, bachata. I was doing photography. At one point, I I snowboarded all over the world. I scuba dove all over the world. I skydived. I really pushed my limits, and I went as far as I could. And when I had nothing left, I pushed harder and farther. And the fundamental thing I learned from that is that if I repeat something enough, I will get it. And so if I didn't pick up something, it wasn't because I wasn't good enough. I didn't have what it takes. My mom, it wasn't because my mom didn't love me when I was a kid and all of that. All that meant is that I needed more repetition. And if I put in more repetition, I eventually got it to the point where I could do it. And then if I did it more repetition, I got to the point where I became comfortable doing it. And if I did more repetition, I got to the point where it, I was actually getting better and I could achieve mastery where people are like, oh, wow, you're actually pretty good at this. And so that's one thing I would say. The other thing is, I think some people, and maybe some might disagree, but this is kind of something I do believe. Some people are just aren't cut out for certain tasks and activities.
Hmm. Hmm. I
Just
agree with that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're trying to force themselves and it's not working, it has a good question would be why are they wanting that particular thing?
Yeah.
Like when there's so many other options they can go after, especially things they can't get good at. And it might be time to shift to something where their skills and their mind and body are naturally aligned
Hmm.
for and can get better at. So
Yeah, like a better
What if
match.
what
yeah,
if it's like, because one of my fears is like, practice that, that Bruce Lee, practice that move 10,000 times, right? Do that, that repetitions that many times. But that, like you said, doing all those repetitions takes time, right? So, and then time is what we think we have a finite a number of.
yeah,
So a lot of people's fear is like, okay, fine, I'm willing to do the work but what if I do that, which takes me like 20 years to do the 10,000 times or 100,000 times, and then at that point, that's like 20 years later, then I found out I'm not cut out for this, or something like, or like I'm forever just going to be mediocre at this. I
yeah.
guess a lot of fear stems from like, okay, I'm going to spend all this time and money and energy for so many years, so much time, and end up the worst case scenario, like, not be good at it.
Yeah.
What's yeah.
So I want to first say I love the dynamic that both you and Victor bring in. It's like the like you bring a very one-sided extreme and Victor brings another. So this is kind of
Right.
cool. Um, I would say that if a person spends 10,000 hours on something, they're gonna get good at it. Like you cannot not get good at it.
Okay.
And if you're not gonna get at it, you'll know much sooner.
I
Like
see.
when you do 10,000 hours,
Mhm.
you're still not gonna suck. You're still gonna get better at it. But there is something important to add to this. When we're doing the 10,000 hours, we're working on seeing how we can make improvements with every repetition we do. Not necessarily every repetition, but we should be progressing. So if we do something, 100 times, our unconscious can take over a lot of that behavior or that um, task or activity or practice. And then it leaves more room for our conscious to think about how to do it better or what we can do to get to the next level. So it's not just about just doing 100 repetitions, but then making sure we are adding constantly or refining ourselves so we are getting better. A great example is I know somebody who wanted to become a coach. And so he started posting on social media. Right now, he has posted consistently for 180 days. And I've been following his contact. And what was great is that he showed up and is doing the reps. And then I approached him recently and I said, hey, first I congratulated him on that because that's a big feat. He did it on his own. He showed up every day. He would open up the social media app, record something, and post. And then I told him, now, oh, and he wasn't getting much traction. And I told him, you've got the quantity in, now it's time to work on the quality. Because when I listen to your posts, I'm finding that it's kind of saying the same things over and over. You just have three couple messages and there isn't much depth to it. So I think now it's time to work on quality where before you post something, really think through it, plan it, plan what you're going to say, and make sure it is not just something you've already said or bring some more depth. So
Oh,
that
that's a
would be
good
the
point.
next
Yeah.
step. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then once he gets that down and he's doing it consistently, now it's to take it to the next level. Like, okay, now how can I improve my um, visuals? And then take it to the next level. And that's how we get to the mastery level. It's not about just doing that one swing over and over, but first is just getting started with the swing until it becomes kind of habit and we can prove to ourselves that we can show up doing the swing every day. And then it's like, okay, now how can I hold the bat better? How can I improve my stance? How can I move my body? And then that's what's really gonna drive ourselves to the mastery level is the repetition plus making sure we're constantly improving that repetition. I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
And Reynold, to your point, I just like to add that I think that's also the importance of community and other people who are willing to pay it forward. So you could do something, run out of time, or fail completely after, say, 20, 30 years. Um, Aside from what Cam said, I think this is the importance of having people who are willing to step in and take some of the slack of what your talents might find the limits of, right? That's why we live in a community, we live amongst other people, we're social animals. And I think it's important that once we have mastered something, we should go out there and either we pass on the knowledge or we take on some of the slack. We live in a community where everybody can help each other along, and that person might have other things that he's not good at, and
Yeah,
you're better at him in doing that task. So
yeah,
that's one. And number two, I think if you dive into the deep esoteric Eastern traditions, that's why they would say that, oh, therefore, there's more than one lifetime. Sometimes you just need more time.
yeah,
You can't just possibly master everything you've set out to do in one lifetime. You might come back, pick up from where you left off and keep
yeah,
going. And for me personally, once you've recognized that, I'm actually just enjoying the process. Like
mm,
it's almost like I'm an actor and an audience at the same time to my own show. And I recognize what's going on. I recognize my weaknesses and what I'm working on. Yet at the same time, I'm enjoying the show. Like I'm enjoying the process. Like I'm mastering something. I know it, and it's almost fun. And it takes away a lot of the pressure of having to, achieve something. And for
yeah,
me, it's like, well, look at this process that I'm going through. It must be so interesting. I wonder how many other processes I've mastered over the course of this lifetime and even lifetimes beyond this.
yeah,
Like how many times I've gone through this exact same process that I'm doing right now. So it becomes entertaining for me.
yeah. Yeah, I can say a little bit about that. One is we don't have, even if we live multiple lives, we couldn't achieve, let alone enjoy all the wants that our brain is producing. It's just not possible. In fact, I think our brain produces more wants in a single month than any
Yeah,
person
there's
could
just too
achieve.
many.
Yeah, could achieve in multiple lives. So that's really important to understand. And this is why I love David Allen's quote. He's the author of the best-selling book, Getting Things Done. He says, you can have anything you want, but not everything.
Mm,
So the real key to achieving what you want in this lifetime is limiting your wants to what you can actually
yeah.
achieve. And if we have too many, again, our own wants can become a hindrance to achieving them.
Yeah. Your energies are all scattered.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at Bruce Lee, he wasn't a social media influencer. He wasn't, multi-best-selling author. He wasn't all these things. He did a TV show and movies, and he was in martial arts. And even the TV show and movies was really just highlighting his martial arts. So he was singular focus on his martial arts. And he did it so much that he got to the level he did. And again, that came not just from doing the repetition of kicks and moves, but constantly improving. So that's really the word I was working on.
Yeah.
Well, with the repetition is constantly improving the repetition so we can get to that mastery. And it's not easy because this is the challenge that we have with our humans. We don't necessarily pick and choose our wants. They're just constantly being triggered and stimulated. And so we could be working on something or we could be dedicated to our purpose. And then all of a sudden our brain triggers a want for something else. Or it sees somebody doing something and it's like it wants that as well. So that's one of the challenges that many of us have. And the more active a wanting mechanism is for a person, the more challenge there is. So it's not that all of us have the same intensity of want. Some people's wanting mechanism is a lot more intense. It's like always creating wants, and the littlest things can create wants. And whereas other people, they actually their brain isn't really triggering any wants, so they can naturally just focus. And it seems like they're doing something to have that success, or they have some special gift, but it's not that they have something, is that they don't have what others are struggling with, and that is trying to contain this mechanism where they don't have that. There was another, um, I wanted to riff on something else you said, but it's not coming to mind. But when it does, I'll let you guys know.
No.
Yeah. I think the wants is I feel in this day and age, our want is like overloading itself because of all the, like you said, social media, the influencers. Everyone's trying to sell a course, like, if you want to get out of the rat race, type of ads.
Yeah,
I get a lot of those. If you want, if you want financial freedom, if you want to be, rich like me, there's
mm,
so much of those stuff out there. I mean, maybe some are legitimate, some are just, I feel, are just preying on people's wants, because now it's like on overdrive. I think our
mm,
wants is so
yeah,
over on overdrive that it's just like, we can't handle it. I think, and sometimes it makes us gullible. Like, yes, that's what I want, and then because, like, oh, back to what you were saying, like the cookie cutters. A lot of people, I feel there's an industry of just selling that cookie cutter
yeah,
solution to all of our wants. Like, okay, just buy this program, this coursework, $10,000, you'll get to where I'm at. You know,
yeah,
just do this here. Just give me some money, and I'll take you to the promised land, right?
yeah.
And then it's a whole industry. I feel.
We're living in a culture that is so good at selling.
Yeah.
Like they have gotten into the depths of
Mm,
what it takes to sell and
mm,
hack that wanting mechanism. And I'm glad you said this because essentially they are preying on that wanting mechanism. They're stimulating that wanting mechanism with these desires, and when that brain gets triggered, it releases these powerful emotions of what life would be like when I have it, and it's going to be so great. And then now I want it, and I'm willing to pay whatever to get it. And so, yes, we are overloaded with it. And again, in my journey, I did follow what they were offering, and I saw, wow, there's like actually a lot of fluff. And
Mm,
I had to make a decision. Do I go in that direction or do I stay true to myself? And staying true to myself means not being as well known or not
yeah.
selling as much. And
Right.
that's kind of the direction I have gone because I know truly when you understand the principles of the mind, some of the things we're talking about, but they go even deeper, it's easy to know that that can't work. And do I want to go in that direction and sell, or do I want to work on delivering? And I chose delivering. It's hard to deliver. It's easy to sell. It's really hard to deliver. And
Yeah.
there's a level
yeah.
of depth a person needs to understand what's going on inside to be able to deliver results. And even then, like I don't always deliver results, and that's because some people have just a lot more resistance that they'll need to put more time and effort into. And
Ultimately, though, oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
yeah, I just
Go
want to
ahead.
add one more to with Reynolds. And yes, right now we're living in a time where there is so much more to do. There's so many more options. There's so many more experiences that our wants are harder to contain. And what's making it even more challenging is before we would see advertisements on television, and now we have a phone where we can open an app and it's just like constant advertisement. So not only are there so many more options, but we're receiving triggers for them a lot more that we have to resist. And so another concept I like people to understand is it really helps to contain as many triggers and stimuli as possible to stay focused. So I am one of those people who have an overactive wanting mechanism. It's kind of the reason I've written over a dozen books, traveled to over 100 countries, and done all those activities because my brain was stimulated by all the different things to do.
Mm.
And at a certain point, I realized that if I want to accomplish anything in life, I have to get a handle on this mechanism. And so what I did is I tried to contain as much triggering stimuli as possible. So I cut out television, I cut out social media, I cut out
Mm.
YouTube, I cut out internet. And in many ways, I even cut out personal development because reading the inspirational stuff had my mind going all in all directions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went as far as to even cut out people from my life because seeing others doing and having things created jealousy in me and made me
Mm-hmm.
want to do and have those things too.
Mm-hmm.
And to constantly try to contain those wants or control them, it was just too much work. I
Mm.
realized it was easier to not have them triggered. And even to this day, it's been over 10 years. So last December 15 was the last time I watched the movie.
Mm.
Yeah. And I haven't been, I don't watch television. I cut out as much media as possible because that's where a lot of the triggers are. I also kind of contain a lot of people and essentially created a bubble for myself where I contain as much triggering stimuli. So yeah, I just want to riff on Reynolds. Like, yes, we are in a more challenging scape right now, landscape, where there are a lot more wants and there's a lot more stimuli triggering those wants, and it does create challenges. And I know what I'm doing is extreme, but I personally believe that a person with an overactive wanting mechanism, this may not just be the best solution, but the only solution. And that's because when our wants get triggered, it's difficult to release it. And once it gets triggered, it's difficult to focus on other things. So it's better to not have it triggered.
Yeah, not triggered them in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you
Or
were going to
yeah,
say something, so I apologize.
No, no, no.
yeah,
I was just gonna, yeah. To your point, I think it just sounds to me like employing proper filtration and discrimination
Yeah.
to all the inputs that are coming in at you.
Yeah.
So that sounds
yeah.
good to me. Yeah.
It also, yeah, I want to add, like, it also helps when you run out of money to buy into the cookie cutter
Yeah.
solution. Like, and I want that,
Yeah.
but oh man, my credit card's maxed out. Sorry, you
Yeah.
can't do it.
So
Reynold,
Reynolds,
if you think about it, for us Asians, it's very simple. Our wants,
Yeah.
we just want to be validated and
mhm.
acknowledged by our parents.
Yes, I know.
That's
I
all we
know.
want, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
I want
you
that
guys
good
both
job
said
label.
something that I don't get a chance to talk on podcast, so I have to say this is
Uh,
so we might think when we have more wealth that it's a greater thing, but we don't see the challenge to it because when we have more abilities to buy more things, now we have our wanting mechanism says, oh, I can have these things, so I'm going to create a want for it. And so it actually can be a challenge because yes, we're working to have a better life or to be financially secure, but then it makes the wanting mechanism even more active because now we can afford more things. And
Yeah.
I think some people don't realize the challenge that financial success can bring. And if they're not prepared for it, this is where their downfall comes because they start buying all this stuff and they spend all their money, or they start buying all these unhealthy things like they overindulge in food and drinks and stuff like that. So they can fall into addictive patterns or, obesity and stuff. And this is a real thing. And I remember when I was becoming more successful, now I had more wants to resist. And I'm like, whoa, like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. And
It's not
then,
talked about enough.
yeah.
yeah.
And then to your point, Victor, so I do this work. I've gone pretty deep in it. I've actually developed a technique that helps people go into their unconscious, and I do the work
Mhm.
and on people's unconscious. And we not only work on resistance, but the want as well.
Mhm.
Over and time again, all of our wants comes down to what you just said is this desire for our mother and dad's love.
Yeah,
Like
for
literally that
sure.
like that desire for that hot girlfriend or that nice car or for that prestigious job all comes down to this love that we didn't receive from our
Yeah.
parents.
It's all these Asian parents. They should just say they love us, right? Instead of
Mommy and
like,
daddy issues, right?
yeah, they're
Yeah,
always like, "Hey, mom, dad, do you love me? Hey, do you want some fruit?"
yeah,
It's like
Right.
they never tell you directly.
Right.
yeah.
Let
No,
me buy you a
seriously,
house.
I was
Uh,
working on a resistant with a woman just last week,
mhm,
and she had some financials to look at. She was
mhm,
resisting opening her, I think it was QuickBooks or financial software, and she was getting distracted with game apps on her phone.
right.
And when we were working through it, it was she was desiring the love of her dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, that's what it
Yeah,
boils down to, really.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So although we have all these
Interesting.
wants, it literally just filters down to that. So it's hard to
Yeah.
imagine because
Right.
if I hadn't done this work at the level I am doing it and seeing it over
Mhm.
and over, I wouldn't have believed it. If somebody told
Yeah.
me,
It's
hey,
incredibly perceptive of you, really,
Yeah.
Kim.
yeah, thank you, I
I don't think
appreciate
it's get talked about enough, though, what you said also earlier about more money, more problems.
it. Yeah,
I find that it's not talked about enough. Like we just think that, oh, if you like having more resources is like a solution
But
to 90% of problems. That, but you never look at the flip side of that, which is it creates more problems too.
yeah,
yeah,
like the
Right?
and
I
now
was talking. Oh, just
yeah,
make one more comment. Like
yeah, go for it,
the
Arnold.
more money. Um, I was talking to someone else, and my idea is, uh, this could be controversial, but I say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and P Diddy.
Yeah,
The reason why they like P Diddy did all of that is because he got all that money and all that power, and that he would not never have thought of those stuff to do all that stuff if he was just a broke musician,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and our mind. So another great point, and our wants never end,
Mhm,
right? So once we think, so here's the thing, our brain will go, man, once I have that amount in my bank account or once I get that house or car, I'll be happy.
mhm.
When we get it, we get a little bit of fulfillment for a little bit of time, and then we want the next thing. And then we
And it's
want
always
the next thing.
temporary. Yeah, it
Yeah.
never lasts very long. Yeah.
So even when you achieve the echelon of success, like P. Diddy, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos,
Mhm.
once you get there, your brain will just want something more. And then those wants start to get perverted. Because once you
Yeah.
have everything, the the brain starts wanting things it can't have.
Yeah. It
And
becomes unchecked. Yeah.
some of those things are not healthy or intrude on other people's boundaries and things of that nature. And again, this is where understanding our wanting mechanism is so helpful because our wants can make us think, oh, once we have that, our life would be great. But if we realize the reality of it, once we do have that, well, we'll just want the next thing and the next thing. And we'll see somebody else that we didn't notice who had something more. And then we'll want that. And again, when we get to a point where we have everything, it doesn't shut off the wanting mechanism. The
Hmm.
mechanism doesn't go, okay, I have everything, so I'm gonna be satisfied. It just starts getting really going into
Yeah.
some,
This is probably why it feels so good to clean house as well. Like every time I feel a little bit overwhelmed, all I have to do is start cleaning house. Like the physical elimination of clutter somehow translates to elimination of clutter in my mind. Yeah, it feels
100%.
good. Yeah.
Mm.
So I start simplifying again to a point where I feel a balance has been achieved. Even I'll give you a really funny example. I'm into old cars. I like to restore them, but they're a money pit, right?
Yeah.
They need a lot of
Yeah.
resources. You need to pour into it. And recently, I've come to a point where I feel that once I have gotten the experience I wanted out of it, one thing I wanted to do was just sell all my collection and go to a brand new entry level, affordable, reliable car, and then I would just drive that and not worry about it, get the safety out of it, get all the enjoyment out of it, and then every 5 years or so, I would just
Get another
change
one.
it for a newer car.
Yeah.
And the thought of that excited me, and it feels so liberating now that I'm actually finding myself looking forward to it. And I feel that I've come to this point because I've already gotten what I needed out of the experience of um, going to the hobby of restoring old cars. Like I'm ready to let it go. So I'm actually having this anticipation in me now to move on to the next stage, which is just
Mm,
like, oh, I just want something that works and that
mm.
won't bother me, and I feel free, you know?
Oh my gosh, you can't imagine how that is. So I mentioned I've traveled to 100 countries. And when I first traveled, I was trying to bring everything along with me. I had a big luggage, a big backpack, and all of that. And the more I was traveling, the more the weight of it I was feeling. Because I would go into a new place, I would have to unpack, and it would take a lot of time to repack and then carry it. It was a strain on my shoulders. So slowly I was letting things go until I got
Nice.
down to a
Yeah.
very small backpack that had only
The
my
essentials.
some clothes, some toiletries, and my and a 11-inch laptop. I got down to that. And I lived off of that for like 6 years because I said
Wow.
I traveled to over 100 countries. I can't tell you how freeing that was. You
Right.
would
Right.
think I would feel less empty, but I felt more free, more enjoyable, less weighted, less clutter. It was amazing. And when I ended
Yeah.
my travels, I wanted to make sure I lived that. And I still live a very minimal lifestyle. Like
Mm.
when people come into my house, they're just like, where's the furniture? Or where's this and that?
Where's your stuff?
Yeah. And it's crazy, but coming back to this culture, I would think it was easy to maintain that because it was easy when I was traveling and I saw the huge benefits, but it's so easy for them once you get back into situations where the want can become active again, it'll just start wanting more things. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this knife was good, but you know what would be great? I would a bigger, heavier knife so I could cut through the bigger things. And then
Yeah.
what if a smaller knife for these things? And when I have guests over, this knife. And it's like, oh my God, I had to notice that and limit myself from going in that direction. So it's
Right.
easy to do that. And then another thing you had mentioned that kind of validates what we were saying. So now you said you restore old cars. I
Mm.
bet that wasn't a dream of yours. I bet that got to a point when you started achieving all these other wants, and then your brain is like, well, what else should I do? And you're like, oh, maybe I'll
Oh,
restore.
absolutely. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cam understands me.
Yeah. And that's the way our wants are. It's like once we achieve everything, especially the things we've been conditioned or told to go after, like get good grades in school, go to good college, get good grades in college, get a good job, buy a big house and all of that, then you still want more things. And then for you, it transmuted into cars. For me, it transmuted into travels. For P.
Mm.
Diddy, it transmuted into what he was doing. So So the so the point that to make is a lot of times it's not better to go do what our wanting mechanism is saying, but work on the want itself, to
Mhm.
work on containing it. And this is where Buddha and some of these other ancient scriptures principles were coming from, because we've been conditioned to go after our wants,
Yeah.
where at a certain point it helps to work on the want itself.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I
Because
like
it
where you're going.
quickly balloons, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
example, with the knife thing you mentioned, like I'm into knives, and so what happened was like, well, now
I
that I
love
have a
it.
nice, now that I have a nice,
You're really needing the love of your mom and dad, huh?
Oh man.
oh, you have no idea, Cam.
Exactly.
Well, now
Uh,
that I have a good Western chef's knife, I'm into the Japanese knife. But once I
Yeah.
get that, I have to get a better whetstone, and if I get a better whetstone, I have to, like the process is endless. It
And not
just keeps
only
the balloons it escalates so quickly.
not only is it endless, but there are those products there for you to buy.
I
Like it's not
know,
like your
right?
mind
oh
just
yeah.
yeah, so
Uh, that's
Yeah,
so true. That is so
yeah.
true.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
I
Wow.
do
true.
think I'm actually have the opportunity to speak at the UN next month.
Mm.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
going to talk about the wanting mechanism because it's the event is around peace and sustainable development,
Mhm.
and I want to talk about how it's really important to understand our wants and desires for peace and development.
Mm.
And I think you guys are understanding why it would be important
Oh
because
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
that would
this
be
is
Yeah.
great.
the real challenge of humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, one that's keeping us to for being in, for enjoying our lives and fulfilled,
Mm,
and for society to come together in a healthy way. And the reason I say that about the society aspect is sometimes we want things not because it'll be fulfilling, because someone else has it. And oftentimes we don't like it when someone has something we don't, so we want to take it. And so this is
mm,
where some of our societal challenges come into play when it comes to our wanting mechanism.
right.
yeah, the
Absolutely.
wa-
Yeah. Yeah.
the wanting thing is very it's a very powerful thing, and I'm thinking just one more comment is that sometimes we don't even need to success. Some people, like they say in the dating world, like they just like to chase, right? They like to
Yeah,
chase, and then when they say got the okay or they got the hookup, uh, they're like, okay, and now, oh, all right. They didn't even get into the relationship part. It's just like, oh, they got them to say yes. That's
yeah,
it. That the chase is done. I need to move on to the next chase. That's I feel it's like even now with the society right now, the short term attention span, like
yeah,
you're just jumping from one one want to the other, but you're not even getting all the way to the end of the want. You're just getting to to the doorstep of the want and just
yeah,
saying, oh, they opened the door, so hey, I'm done with this want. Let me get to
yeah.
the next one.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
so
That's
one,
right.
now we can understand the struggle women experience because, they'll get guys who are see them and they're really attracted, and then they'll say all these things like, "Oh, I want to be with you. I want to be with you forever," and blah blah blah. And then the guy gets a girl and then he moves on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and a woman experiences this quite often where it's hard for her to actually believe what a guy is saying anymore because she had experiences where they were so convincing in that they were going to stay or there was going to be something. And then once they got what they got, they move on.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't ever, o- oftentimes we don't actually take the time to enjoy the thing that we got. We just wanted it. And then once we
Hmm.
get it, or once we know we can have it, we move on. And this
Yeah.
shows up in many ways, and I want to talk about it because it's really important. So a
Hmm.
lot of times people will have this goal and they'll put a lot of time and effort into it. We talked about the struggle is really important. And once they get to the finish line, right before they actually achieve the goal, they'll move on to something else.
Mm,
So right before a person is going to get his diploma, they won't finish the last semester and
mm,
then they'll move on to something else. Or right before when the girl is interested, they probably won't even kiss her or move on with
mm.
that relationship because now they
Right.
can have her, they just move on. And
Yeah.
women do that too. I don't want to say it's just men and women.
Mm,
And I know a lot of people listening resonate because this is something I have come across people telling me as a struggle. I know I've known guys who put in years of work in developing a skill and getting a certification. And once they got it, they didn't even go into that field
yeah.
and they just move on to something else. And it really speaks to what Ronald was saying that a lot of times our people aren't even taking the time to gain the fulfillment from it. And there's a reason why that is. It's because, and we didn't talk about it, and this will be really important to talk about because it could give people a really enlightening perspective on want and can help them from chasing the wrong things. When the brain does trigger a want for something, it comes with pain. When we don't have something, it's painful. And oftentimes we are chasing something not because it will be fulfilling, but just to remove the pain it brings.
Mm, mm.
So when
That's
we
a good
see,
point. Yeah.
yeah, when we see an attractive girl, it's like, oh wow, she's so, we use the words like attractive and hot. It's like we want it. And there's a pain that we don't have. And when we're going after her, it's like we're really trying to remove that pain. And when we do
Yeah.
have her, the pain is gone. It's like, okay, I can move on. Or when
Mm,
somebody has the high aspirations for getting this really nice car or this really nice job and they're really working hard for it, well, it's that pain that's pushing them to it. And
mm,
when they can have it, the pain goes away and that desire is no longer there, which is why
mm.
And the reason I bring this up is so people can understand before they start going after a want. Why are they going after it? Have they really worked through to see if it's going to be achievable? Or are
Yeah.
they just being pushed because there's so much pain around it, they have to
Mm,
realize that want just to remove the pain it's bringing?
that's right. Yeah. It's worthwhile to examine your own thoughts and your own motivations before you jump into something.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because as Reynolds said, you can go 10,000 hours to realize it's not fulfilling.
Yeah.
Mm.
Then you're really at a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shortcut to that would be just if you go hug your mom and dad and
Yeah, the short.
save yourself a lot of pain and time.
Yeah. So
Sometimes
all the
it's
moms
harder
and
to, harder to do. Yeah.
yeah, all the moms and dads listening here, now you know if you're one, because so moms and dads don't want to, aren't trying to put us through all this turmoil. Like that's not what they really want.
All right.
What they're doing for us is they want us to have a good life. They
Mm-hmm.
want us to have a life that they didn't have, that they wish they had. In fact, most people don't realize when parents raise their kids, they're not trying to give them what the kid wants, but what they wanted when they were a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I'm guilty of that. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we can realize all they really want is your love, just give them your love.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll
They just want
shortcut
your
all of
time. They
the.
want your love. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Save you
that's
years of heartache
it.
and struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, now you don't have to go collect all these knives and fix all these
Yeah,
cars.
cars. Yeah.
Exactly.
They're just
Uh,
bandages to this gaping wound that I have in my heart.
Yeah. You know, Victor, traveling to 100 countries isn't easy. It's
Oh
some of
yeah.
the roughest things a
mhm.
person can experience, and the things, especially some of the countries I've been to, and the challenges that come with it. Why did I do all that?
Mhm. Because you
My
wanted
dad,
love from your mom and dad as
because I
well.
didn't get the love from my mom and dad. Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Looks like
Yeah.
everybody's struggles are more or less the same.
Yeah. It's the same struggle. Yeah.
the same struggle.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
uh,
So Reynold,
thing.
usually
Oh
at
yeah.
this
Oh,
point, we go into our words of wisdom.
Sure.
yes. Yes. Yeah. So Cam. Yeah. So this is our time where we ask our guests: is there any like take-home message, nugget of wisdom that you can sort of? I know you already gave us a lot, so maybe something to
Mm.
like you know pull it all together for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll first start by saying thank you very much for this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Cam.
Oh,
Normally,
thank you.
yeah, normally I'm talking about resistance because we can go as deep into resistance. So I don't get as much chance to talk about the want side of things. And as you can see, it's pretty complex and there's a lot
Mhm.
that people can learn from. So
Yeah.
again, thank you. Um, how I end most podcasts when it comes to the last filing parts or
Mm.
leaving with the final parting thoughts is wanting does not lead to having. Just because we want something doesn't mean that we'll take the necessary steps to go after it. And that's because we have this part of the brain called resistance that's designed to hold us back. Now, if a person doesn't understand that, they could think just by wanting something, they'll be able to take the necessary steps to go after it. And when they don't, they're left with disappointment and a lot of self-beat up, like, I can't do anything right, something's wrong with me, the universe is conspiring against me, and all of that. But it's none of that. It's just that they have a part of their own mind, it's their own brain that's creating the hurdles and detours. And as I said before, if we can understand that from the get-go, it makes it easier to go after that thing because when the hurdles do come up, we're not derailed. We just know they were going to come up and then we work to move around it. But when we are not expecting it and they come up, that's when it starts to create the challenge. It starts to create this victim, like, oh, why me? And things like that. So if a person can understand that, they can make the progress they want. I wouldn't say more easily, but in less time and effort.
Mm, understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Vic, you got anything to add on that?
Well, Mine is a straight "I love you" and a direct hug. If your mom and dad cuts fruit for you, that's close enough. Man, just go eat that
Right,
fruit that they
exactly.
offer.
Yeah.
They cut a mango for
Right.
you or offer you some grapes. Yeah, that's close
Yeah.
enough.
That's close enough, right?
You take what you can
Yeah,
get.
Yeah.
right. That's for the
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, for the parents, right? For the parents, just love your kids now so they don't have to suffer in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So they
Oh
don't
Stop
have
man.
to.
stop the pain. Love now.
Yeah. So they don't have to travel to 100 countries,
Countries.
have this
Exactly.
knife
Save them some
collection.
money, right?
And yeah.
Save them some
Yeah.
money and time.
Yeah. Just to realize the fulfillment wasn't out there. It's all in here. So,
Right, right. Thank
Right.
you
yeah.
so much, Cam. We had
Yeah,
such a
thank you so
wonderful time
much.
talking to you.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you
Likewise.
so much.
Yeah.
All right, let me end the show. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Remember, sharing is caring, and see you guys next time.
Peace.